Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're really digging into identity security, where it stands now and where it's heading.
That's right.
We're using CyberArk's Q1 2025 earnings presentation and the transcript from their earnings call on May 13th as our guides.
Good sources for this topic. Very relevant.
Yeah, and our mission today isn't just, reporting numbers. We want to unpack the big shifts, the challenges companies face, and the solutions being talked about. Find those key insights for you.
Absolutely. It's amazing how much you can learn about the wider security world just by looking closely at a company like CyberArk, especially their financials and commentary.
It really acts as a kind of barometer, doesn't it?
It does, for industry trends, for the threats people are actually dealing with.
Okay, so let's jump right in. CyberArk's Q1 25 results. Pretty impressive.
Yeah, they reported total annual recurring revenue, or ARR, reaching $1.215 billion.
$1.2 billion ARR. And total revenue was $318 million.
Correct, with an operating margin of 18% and free cash flow generation around $96 million. Solid numbers.
Very solid. And importantly, they actually beat their own guidance on these metrics.
Exactly. And that's key. It suggests, really strong market demand. People need these identity solutions, even with maybe some economic jitters out there.
That ARR figure especially, $1.2 billion, that signals pretty sticky customer relationships, right? Predictable revenue.
Definitely. It shows customers are committed, likely locked into the platform for the long haul. It buffers against some of that macro uncertainty.
Which leads us nicely to the next big theme, identity as the new security perimeter. We hear that phrase a lot.
We do, and the data backs it up. The sources mention over 90% of organizations have had breaches involving compromised identities.
90%, that's huge.
Stark, isn't it? Traditional defenses, firewalls, and the like, they're just not enough anymore with cloud, remote work, everything being so distributed.
So identity is the choke point now.
Pretty much. If an attacker gets hold of legitimate credentials, they can often just walk right in, bypassing a lot of other security layers. It's the linchpin.
And it's not just about stopping breaches, is it? The sources stress it's mission critical now for just keeping the business running.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And for customer trust, compliance, all of it.
A major identity breach could really cause chaos.
Huge disruption, financial losses, definitely damage to your reputation, legal trouble. It's why, like we said, even if budgets are tight elsewhere, identity security tends to remain a priority. The risk of not investing is just too high.
The presentation also talks about this being an exponential era. Sounds a bit dramatic, but maybe it's accurate.
I think it is, actually. Look at the speed of change, the scale of threats now, the complexity of IT environments. It is accelerating rapidly.
You've got state-sponsored actors, cyber criminals getting more sophisticated, AI being used in attacks.
Exactly. AI adds a whole new dimension.
Sure.
And the common factor in, almost every major breach, it comes back to a compromised identity. It really underscores the need for strong controls there.
Okay, so let's break down these identities. It's way beyond just employee logins now, right?
Oh, massively. The sheer number and types of identities have just exploded.
Where do we start? Human identities.
Yeah, let's start there. Privilege used to be maybe a handful of IT admins. Not anymore.
Right.
Now you've got IT admins, sure, but also cloud ops teams, developers, people managing SaaS apps.
Yeah.
Lots more people with significant access.
And they're working from everywhere, accessing cloud stuff. It's much more dynamic.
Precisely. That distribution makes it harder to track and control consistently.
Okay, so humans are more complex. What about machines?
Well, this is where the scale just goes nuts. The presentation said the ratio of machine identities to human ones jumped from 45 to 1 a year ago
Okay.
to over 80 to 1 today, and it's still climbing fast.
80 to 1, that's incredible. And these aren't just passive things, they have access to critical systems.
Absolutely. Think applications, microservices, APIs, scripts.
Yeah.
They all need to authenticate. They all have permissions.
But often without the same level of scrutiny as human accounts.
Often, yes. There's frequently less oversight, less governance. Many organizations don't even have a full inventory of all their machine identities, let alone what they can access. It's a massive, often unseen attack surface.
Silent operators, almost.
Yeah, and if one gets compromised, it can be a gateway for attackers to move laterally, often undetected for a while.
Okay, human, machine, and now AI identities are entering the picture.
That's the next frontier. AI is getting embedded in workflows. And that creates new identity challenges.
How so?
Well, AI agents might need privileges. They might even create new identities as part of their processes. And AI itself is a force multiplier, right, for attackers and defenders.
So securing the AI agent itself becomes an identity problem.
Increasingly, yes. It's being recognized as fundamentally an identity security challenge, a necessary shift in thinking.
So, okay, this landscape is complex, threats are rising. What are the solutions being proposed? CyberArk's unified identity security platform comes up a lot in the sources.
Right. Their approach aims to tackle this complexity head-on, providing a single platform for all these identity types.
What are the key parts?
First up is discovery and context. You can't secure what you can't see.
Makes sense.
So understanding what identities exist, human, machine, AI, what access they have, what their risk level is, what controls are already in place, getting that full picture.
Establishing visibility first. Got it. Then what?
Then comes the core, privilege controls.
Yeah.
This is really managing the keys to the kingdom. Credentials, authentication methods, active sessions, specific entitlements.
Okay.
CyberArk highlights this as their big differentiator, their competitive edge. Really tight control over who or what gets access to what and under which conditions. That's how you reduce risk dramatically.
But with potentially millions of identities, you can't manage that manually.
No way. That's where policy automation is critical. The platform lets you automate enforcing security rules based on context, who the user is, what they're trying to access, the risk level.
For efficiency and just scale.
Exactly. Manual processes just can't cope anymore. It ensures consistency, too.
The platform also talks about lifecycle management. What's that involve?
It's about the whole lifespan of access. So,
Yep.
Dynamically granting permissions only when needed, that's just-in-time access, and crucially, revoking them promptly when they're not needed anymore.
Minimizing standing privileges.
Right. Reduces the window for attack if an account gets compromised. It also helps streamline security ops and meet compliance mandates. Right access, right time, nothing more.
And compliance is always huge. How does the platform handle governance?
Yeah, there are specific governance and compliance features built in, helping meet internal rules and external regulations.
And the Zilla acquisition plays a role here.
It does. Zilla brings modern identity governance, or IGA. The idea is to simplify things like access reviews and automate provisioning, moving away from potentially clunky legacy IGA systems.
So this unified approach, it's meant to deliver real results for customers.
That's the goal. Things like measurably lower cyber risk, better business resilience if an attack does happen, smoother audits, and just more efficiency through automation, simplifying a very complex problem.
Let's talk innovation. The sources mention Zilla quite a bit. How's that integration going?
Apparently very well. They've rolled out the Zilla provision and compliant modules, and the feedback seems positive. Customers like how it simplifies access reviews, automates provisioning, especially in cloud environments.
Any examples?
Yeah, the call mentioned a Q1 deal, a financial services company that actually ripped out their old legacy IGA vendor and replaced it with Zilla. Shows it's addressing a real pain point.
Okay. Another area mentioned was secure workload access. Sounds like it targets those machine identities we discussed.
Directly. It combines managing the identities of workloads like apps and services with CyberArk secrets management for protecting the passwords, API keys, certificates they use.
So end-to-end protection for non-human identities.
Exactly. Applying similar rigorous controls to machines as we do to humans across their whole life cycle.
Now, this next one seems like a really big shift. The CA Browser Forum voting to shorten SSL/TLS certificate lifespans.
Yeah, this is significant, down to a maximum of 47 days by 2029.
Yeah.
That's a huge drop from the current average, which is like 398 days.
47 days. That's going to force a lot of changes in how companies manage certificates.
Absolutely. Manual management becomes basically impossible at that frequency. Automation is going to be essential.
And the sources mentioned strong customer interest.
Very strong. Lots of buzz at events like RSA. And this is where Venafi, another CyberArk acquisition, comes in. They specialize in machine identity management, especially certificates.
So Venafi helps automate this.
That's the idea. They mentioned big customers, like a Fortune 100 financial firm and PDS Health, already deploying or expanding Venafi's solution to tackle this exact problem.
Okay. And what about securing those AI agents we talked about?
They've announced a specific secure AI agent solution. Basically, it integrates their platform capabilities but tailors them for AI.
So AI-specific discovery, controls, policies.
Right. Lifecycle management for AI identities, governance, the whole package. It's slated for release later in 2025.
And the partnership with Accenture.
Yeah, integrating with Accenture's AI refinery platform. The goal is to provide security for AI agents sort of out of the box, recognizing that AI security is identity security.
The earnings call also gave some customer deal examples, which are always useful.
They are. Good real-world context.
Yeah.
One was a big U.S. soccer company. They switched from a competing PAM vendor to CyberArk's full platform.
What was their focus?
Just-in-time access and zero standing privilege. Really trying to minimize persistent access for IT, developers, and their machine identities. A clear move towards a more modern security posture.
And the other example.
A major U.S. healthcare company. They were expanding their use of CyberArk, specifically using Secrets Hub to secure cloud workloads for developers, their workforce, and again, those crucial machine identities.
So those deals show a trend towards platform consolidation, covering all identity types.
Seems like it. Addressing that complexity we talked about with a unified approach, securing humans, machines, the works.
Okay, let's wrap up with the guidance and outlook. Sounded pretty positive overall.
It did. They raised their full year 2025 revenue guidance, now expecting $1.313 billion to $1.323 billion. That's about 32% growth year over year at the midpoint.
And that includes a full year of Venafi.
Correct. They also bumped up their non-GAAP operating income forecast to between $221 and $229 million.
What about ARR by year end?
Expected to land between $1.41 billion and $1.42 billion. That's roughly 21% growth. And adjusted free cash flow projected around $300 to $310 million. Strong projections.
Interesting, though, even with a great Q1 and what sounds like a strong pipeline, they still seem a bit cautious in the guidance.
Yeah, they acknowledge that. Likely just being prudent, factoring in those broader macro uncertainties that could still impact customer spending, even if security remains a priority.
So pulling it all together from this deep dive, it really feels like the need for strong identity security is, well, accelerating.
Definitely. Driven by tougher threats, more complex environments, and this explosion of human, machine, and now AI identities.
And CyberArk seems well positioned with this unified platform idea, especially their focus on privilege controls.
Right. And their innovation, the acquisitions like Zilla and Venafi, seem aimed squarely at these evolving challenges: governance, machine identities, certificate management.
It also suggests that cybersecurity spending, especially for identity, is pretty resilient, right? It's seen as necessary.
It appears so. It's defensible spending because the risks are just too high otherwise. What really stands out to me is that convergence, human, machine, AI, you can't really treat them in silos anymore. You need that unified strategy.
Disparate tools just won't cut it.
Not effectively, no.
Which brings us to a final thought for you listening. As these lines between human, machine, and AI identities keep blurring, how do organizations like yours need to fundamentally adapt? How do you ensure comprehensive protection across this whole interconnected digital world?
It's a critical question, really something to mull over as you think about your own security strategy moving forward.
Definitely food for thought. The challenges are real, but as we've discussed, the innovation and strategic focus on identity offer a path forward. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.